An investigation is underway around the death of a 23-year-old man from Red Lake, Minnesota, whose family says he was shot. A local obituary says Daniel Johnson died last week. Johnson's family says it's shocking and heartbreaking, adding all that they know is that Johnson was shot multiple times. A spokesperson for the FBI tells Valley News Live, as of right now, this is only a death investigation and could not comment any further. A 14-year-old is expected to be okay after police say they were hit by a car while riding their bike in Moorhead this afternoon. It happened at the intersection of 12th Avenue and 34th Street South. An officer with the Moorhead Police Department says the 14-year-old was heading eastbound on 12th Avenue when a driver who stopped for a red light at the intersection crashed into him. Police say that driver did not see any cars, and that's why they continued to turn after stopping. The 14-year-old is believed to have minor injuries. Police tell us the driver was cited for failing to yield to a pedestrian. West Fargo police are still investigating after multiple trees were stripped of their branches outside Aurora Elementary in West Fargo. It happened Saturday night. Police say they also received reports of a symbol spray painted on the sidewalk along 9th Street West. One man says he caught it all on his surveillance camera and says he's already turned it over to police, adding that he hopes it helps the vandals get caught. West Fargo police urge anyone with surveillance video or information about who did this to contact them at 701-433-5500. Cool, clear, and breezy. All good things to say about our Tuesday so far. Hutch joins us now in your no-wait weather with a look at the rest of our night. How's it looking, Hutch?
Well, quiet skies out there shown by the Valley Skycam with a look out to the west. We've had much drier and much cooler air push into the valley today. Overnight thunderstorms started in the Devil's Lake Basin. Some 1-inch diameter hail sent in by the Leeds area from Linda. Tim and Crystal Bow capturing this pokey-looking hail. Ouch, that's a headache. And then there's also this example from the Twin Valley area, which got hit pretty hard as well. Rain, that was another thing around Devil's Lake where you see the orange colors. Estimates from radar, 2.3 inches, and southern Norman County just south of Ada, estimates of 3 inches or a little more. Notice what fell in the rain gauge, substantially less. So it's pretty nice to have those Doppler radar estimates. Here's also a look at the trail of hail from Devil's Lake right through the Detroit Lakes area. Things are quiet now, so for your evening, get out and enjoy. Bring the jacket. We'll have gusty winds for the next few hours. It does look like overnight it's going to be a chilly one. I'll have hour-by-hour details on that, and we'll talk about our next chance of rain and thunder here in a moment.
Okay, Hutch, thank you. You often see us reporting on scams that target the elderly, but a new study suggests their own family members are the ones most likely to take advantage. Valley News Team's Rose Itzkovitz explains how, when it comes to financial abuse toward elders, it's often all in the family.
The expression, "the apple doesn't fall far from the tree," is usually a good thing.
They know that they're not going to get any money from me.
But not when the apple is snatched from the branch.
Go out and get a job.
A new study from the University of California says that may be the case more often than you think. Of more than 800 calls to the National Center on Elder Abuse, more than half cited financial abuse.
Does it sound realistic to you?
Yes.
At 48%, the perps most commonly ID'd, the elder's own flesh and blood.
It's just devastatingly sad. We've seen that more than once.
Brian Arrett has worked with seniors for 40 years. He says financial abuse often starts out innocently.
A son or a daughter or another relative might be helping mom or dad, with their checkbook, for instance, helping pay bills. All of a sudden, out of the blue, they might write a check to themselves.
It's usually things like stealing checks from checkbooks. It's usually like using their credit cards, making withdrawals from the accounts.
Experts say to look for red flags, like out-of-pattern purchases.
Maybe a lot of online purchases, for instance, if the person is not so computer savvy, for instance.
And the best thing to do is file a police report and check in with the bank.
Most banks do have structures in place to prevent things like that.
But we're told sometimes the hardest obstacle to overcome is embarrassment.
I guess the problem becomes whether the elder is actually willing to admit that.
They've always wanted, to help their child succeed. And the embarrassment is because they've got a child that is doing something that's obviously wrong.
Letting them realize that this is really not something to be ashamed of.
So if it's your loved one getting ripped off, even if by another loved one, the best thing you can do is encourage action. In Fargo, Rose Iskevitz, Valley News Live.
In the study, though the abuse most reported among elderly was financial, the second most common was emotional abuse at 35% and neglect at 20%. For more resources, you can head to our website and click on this story. Bemidji police need your help finding a missing 17-year-old girl. Tayana Provincial was last seen this past Sunday. She's about 5'4", 160 pounds, with brown eyes and shoulder-length brown hair. Authorities say she was last seen wearing a dark blue hooded sweatshirt and blue sweatpants. She also has a tattoo on her left hand. Anyone with information is urged to call police. A mother and her son are lucky to be alive after their canoe tipped over on a Minnesota lake and they had to be rescued by a helicopter hours later. The Cass County, Minnesota Sheriff's Department says it happened yesterday on Leech Lake by Walker. A 56-year-old woman and her 28-year-old son went out canoeing around 8:30 in the morning. Around 3 that afternoon, the pair had not returned and police were called in. A Minnesota State Patrol helicopter was called into search and the pair was eventually found almost 12 hours after they left. The two were treated by an ambulance at the resort. The extent of their injuries are unknown. Fargo police are warning drivers about a problem they're seeing in some of the city's busiest intersections. It's called gridlock, and you might have seen it causing some major backups. But many people are now reaching out to police, saying it's not on the drivers, but rather the timing of the traffic lights. Valley News Team's Callie Hubbard is live from one of those busy roadways right now and tells us what Fargo police and the city of Fargo is doing about it. Callie?
Hi, Melanie. Yes, it's just after 5, and as you can see, there's quite a few people on the roads behind me. This is 45th Street and 32nd Avenue South. I'm going to step out of the frame, and I'm going to show you what exactly this gridlock means. So what people are doing is they're trying to make the light when people are stopped on the other side of the intersection. This is when the light turns red, and then that person is stuck in the middle of the intersection blocking traffic. Now, Fargo Police and the City of Fargo traffic engineer met today to talk about the problem and if traffic lights are the cause. I just got done speaking with traffic engineer Jeremy Gordon, and he says he's constantly watching the traffic signals and monitoring these signals throughout the city. He says that road construction in other areas could be the cause of these backups in these busy intersections. But for right now, Fargo Police and the city say to leave as early as you can, to be courteous and be patient, and don't be that driver that stops in the middle of that intersection. Live in Fargo, Callie Hubbard, Valley News Live.
Callie, thank you for that live report. We'll have much more on this issue tonight at 9 on the Fargo CW and Valley News Live 10 at 10. Authorities from a handful of entities are coming together to conduct a sobriety checkpoint in Cass County. The checkpoint will take place sometime between this Friday and Sunday. The primary goal of a sobriety checkpoint is to educate and stop impaired driving. Officials say proactive measures such as sobriety checkpoints help decrease serious crashes on the road. And now, new details about Jeffrey Epstein's final days. We now know the wealthy man signed a will just 2 days before his suicide in jail. His incredible worth, nearly $600 million, detailed in the document. Epstein's brother was his only heir, but according to the will, he won't get anything. Instead, it will all go into a trust created the same day the document was signed. NBC's Morgan Ratford has more on this story.
This morning, Jeffrey Epstein's final will revealed. The document signed just 2 days before he took his own life in jail. A copy filed in the U.S. Virgin Islands where Epstein owned property. The will values his estate at $577 million, $18 million more than what he told a judge last month, with $56 million listed as cash and $18 million in aviation assets, automobiles, and boats. But it will likely be worth much more than that. The category of fine arts, antiques, collectibles, valuables, and other personal property still needs to be appraised. Assets that some women accusing Epstein of sexual abuse are already going after in the wake of his suicide. As scrutiny intensifies on what Epstein left behind, the U.S. prison system is facing new fallout from his death in federal custody. On Monday, the acting director of the Bureau of Prisons reassigned by Attorney General William Barr. Barr, writing the new leadership, will lead BOP with the competence, skill, and resourcefulness they have embodied throughout their government careers. The move comes days after the warden of the prison where Epstein died was temporarily reassigned. 2 guards who were supposed to watch Epstein have also been placed on leave. Investigations now trying to determine whether they were literally asleep on the job when Epstein died.
The U.S. Attorney's Office in New York has also formally filed to have the criminal indictment against Epstein dismissed, a move expected in light of his death. But the U.S. Attorney stresses he is still committed to investigating other potential defendants.